Hi guys, my name is Kayla Shaw and you're watching In Focus with the Witness TV. In our last episode, we spoke with Caroline Holly, the co-founder of Life Changer and its expansion Lifeboat, which is aimed at aiding the homeless people in Pietermaritzburg in the best ways it can. From its humble beginnings to highlighting the importance of compassion, Caroline represents one of the many championing for the homeless in the city. And today, not skipping the beat, I'm joined by Thami Gcwabaza, who is her co-founder of Life Changer and now the new chairperson of Pietermaritzburg Homeless Network. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm doing okay. Just trying to wear more caps, but other than that, I'm doing fine.
Awesome. Well, tell me. I think let's go right into it. I don't like waiting.
Yeah,
Let's just do it. So how did you get involved in the homeless? Like, what was your first experience and the dedication that you've shown us?
it's a funny, not funny story. I think. Many years ago. But yeah, a while ago. I think it must have been 2019, if not 2017. My brother was older brother was running a bit of a tuck shop in one of the local schools, and he'd have like access product at the end of the day. So he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, bro, I know you do the whole church thing, so I'm sure you can find people to give this to." I'm like, "Okay, firstly, wow. Secondly, yeah, sure, I can find people." But he gave me, I think it was snowballs or Chelsea buns that day, and some yogurts. So I put it in the back of my vehicle, and in the evening I went out. It was a Wednesday, and I was like, "Sure, I'll find some people on the street that I can give it to." So yeah, I went to go to a petrol station to go fill up. One guy came knocking on my door. I'm like, "Whoa, who are you?" He's like, "You don't remember me?" I'm like, "I don't know you." He's like, "No, you know me. We went to the same high school." He starts mentioning things that only someone who went to the same high school with me would know. And I was like, "Oh, dude, you really do know me." Yeah, he mentions my younger brother and that he went to school with him or whatever. I'm like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what happened? How did you end up in this situation? So he tells me a bit of a story, and that starts my journey with him personally. But that evening, I went out, I handed out the food, got back to the house, felt good about myself and stuff. But sure as anything, the following Wednesday, he calls me up again, and he's like, "Hey, bro, I've got some stuff again. Could you get it off my hands again?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So this happens for like 2, 3 Wednesdays back to back. Fourth Wednesday, I'm expecting a call. I don't get one. I'm chilling on the couch, and I felt I should go get bread, cheese, polony, juice, and make it a Wednesday thing. So I got up, went, and that's how it sort of started. Every Wednesday after that, the team grew, guys joined in, and we started sort of meeting and interacting with the guys that were living and are connected to the streets. Yeah, that's how it started for me.
Sure. So as you were explaining,
Yeah,
where it started and that, so where predominantly were you guys feeding or say, taking the food, should I say?
yeah.
'Cause I know with the Lifeboat now, you guys are centered more on the CBD. Was it always in the CBD
Mm.
or did you guys start somewhere else?
So we'd drive around the city, but it was mostly in the CBD.
Okay.
Um, there's the CBD is graded. There's different areas of the CBD that offer different levels of safety, not just to the general public, but to the community of people living on the streets. You'll find that guys that are new to the streets are more on the outskirts,
Mhm.
and the longer you stay, the more centralized you become. And you'll find that downtown, your east streets, Retief streets, but further downtown are the guys that have been on the streets for a while and are also hard hardened drug users. I think is a way to describe them. So they're heavily drug addicted, but they've been heavily drug addicted for a very long time. And you'll find them in your east streets, your Retief streets, but further downtown. And that's sort of how the ring opens up central, and then it sort of opens up more and more. As well as the taxi ranks in town were a big spot that we visited because a large concentration of guys was there.
And the woman?
Females on the streets, it's a tricky dynamic. You find a lot of females on the streets have to have a male companion, because if you don't, you are open to all sorts of abuse. And if you have a man in your life, in inverted commas, you are protected, or at least have the expectation to have that guy protect you from any and all violence that you might encounter on the streets. But there are females that live on the streets, and it sort of it's opened up a larger pool to another profession. Trying to be as respectful in my speech as possible. But you'll find that a lot of girls start off using drugs and then end up in prostitution to get money to sustain the drugs, because for them it's an option that they can exercise, as opposed to, if you see most of the guys, it's either they resort to crime in order to feed their addiction, or cardboard collection, or aluminium connection, or metal collection, whatever it is that they try recycle to make ends meet, or car guarding, all those avenues. You'll find there are a lot of guys, and to contend in that space for females is a bit difficult. So it's easier to support their addiction, easier being such a tricky word, to support their addiction through prostitution.
Well, now, obviously, going from that, from seeing all of this,
Yeah.
starting from basically just a small group of people,
Yeah.
is this how Life Changer came about, or how did you and Caroline end up meeting?
So this team of people that was meeting up grew into a soup kitchen. That's when I first encountered YFC. It's an organization in the city that had a building, and we sort of morphed into a soup kitchen where guys could come to a central venue where we could serve them from that place. But what sort of happened, I think, post that, is that we opened up both avenues again. So there was still the street element where we'd go onto the street, but there was also the element of soup kitchen where the guys could come to a collective space to sort of commune together in that space. And when that was happening, what happened was, it was one dude that all three of us knew, and his name was Jeremy. He was a lawyer, and he's a lawyer in the city. Caroline came to Jeremy individually, and Caroline at the time, I think she was carrying some food in her car and handing out to guys as and when she drove by them. But she was like, "There's got to be more than this. We got to find a place that we can sort of work with the guys." And at the same time, I was working with, or at least in conversations with the previous mayor, which was Mr. Njilo, because I'd gone to high school with his son. So there was a relationship there where I was like, look, let's try get a building, let's try get a space for the guys. And in another vein, there was a gentleman called Rob Ninguton who had come from Northern Ireland and was working in South Africa during Pietermaritzburg specifically for during the HIV/AIDS pandemic in the country. And then post that had realized that his time in that space was done, and he wanted to work with the kids again. And these kids are kids of parents that had been um, fallen victim or had died due to the HIV/AIDS pandemic, and now the kids had become orphans. And he wanted to step into a space to work with them. And you'll find that most of the guys on the streets are kids of that era. So it's these three people knowing this common guy, and this common guy was like, "Why don't you guys get into a room and have a conversation?" And that's how Life Changer as a concept was born, because Rob had the idea of working into children's homes to sort of stop the flow of kids onto the streets, because we found that about 60% of the guys that we work with have had an encounter with the child and youth care center in some shape, form, or size. So we have that leg of stopping the flow onto the streets, but also working with the guys that already find themselves in that space. And that's where myself and Caroline's heart sort of met, and the three of us, sort of started Life Changer. That's how Life Changer was born. Yeah.
Sure. Then what's your role within it? Obviously, as
Yeah.
co-founder, but within it, what are your responsibilities?
So mostly it's a lot of advocacy into spaces and raising awareness, Managing the team. We do that jointly with Caroline that we have working in the lifeboats, as well as fundraising, but almost carrying the vision of what we feel we're led to carry in the stream, but holding it open-handedly enough to allow people to speak into it, and see what it sort of becomes. Um, as long as it's still solution-based and it doesn't deviate from the original parameters of this is the demographic we're working with and this is why we're working with this demographic. So yeah, for me, it's mostly fundraising, awareness, and as well as management of the team that we have on the ground. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, with you being on the ground from basically the very, very beginning,
Yeah.
before life change and everything, the guys knew who you were, or at least could associate something with you. Obviously,
Yeah.
like Caroline, she referred to herself being called Mama or Auntie Caroline,
Yeah.
or even Mama Colgate at one point.
Yeah.
Do you have one of your own like little names that you can share?
I do, but it's not as exciting. It's just so Thami is my name. So most of the guys would call me Thami, which is like older brother, attached with my name attached to it. Because I think that's what they sort of viewed me as or view me as. And I think the reason for that is mostly because what guys are seeking and what guys have in this community is family. What we all really look for is a sense of belonging, and we tend to stick in spaces where we belong. And that's why there's such a big community because there's something that they've lost in the communities that they come from, which is a sense of belonging. And there, they found it. And there's different reasons that attributes to guys ending up on the streets, but the one common thing that they all have is wanting to belong. Every single one of them, they want to belong to a community in some shape, form, or size. And that's why we've come to learn that the opposite of any addiction is belonging. It's not sobriety. You only become sober when you belong. There's a gentleman who had his mom had moved from the Eastern Cape to I think it's Inanda in Durban, and was trying to find work there. She got pregnant with him, gave birth to him, and when he was a couple of months or a year or so old, the mom passed away. But there wasn't any connection with the family. No one knew where she was from. No one knew how she had gotten there. They had no trace back home for him, and he didn't know any of them as well because he had never met them. It was always just him and his mom. Um, anyway, he started working with the YMCA when he was in his older years. Got clean for about a period of 10 months, and then the festive season came. Now, the festive season is a season where we tend to think it's all about community and family, and but a lot of people feel most alone during the festive season. I mean, we have the highest suicide rate during that time. Now imagine for guys that are on the streets, it's someone who doesn't feel like they belong already. And that guy at the YMCA, that December, just between the 7 days of the 25th and the 2nd of Jan, completely relapsed. Because that was the most alone he felt. And what kept him sober during the year was because he was a part of a community. But when everybody sort of went to their own families, he was left alone at the Y, quite literally. He had nowhere to go. And there's always one community that's always willing to accept people, and that's the community on the streets because there's a sense of we're all broken. Let's come together, even if it's for a very bad and and shouldn't be common cause, which is drugs. And that's when he relapsed. And that was a story of how genuinely you are loyal to people that are around you. And those guys on the streets, they walk everywhere with each other. They smoke every day with each other. They do life together essentially, and that's why they trust each other. And whenever the relapse is caused by when I feel like I don't belong, I always know that there's a place where I do, even if it means I need to smoke drugs in order to exist in that space. But that's a cost that they're willing to pay because the feeling of belonging, it's not even a feeling. The need for belonging is quite immense, and we all have it if I'm being honest. But yeah,
It's definitely heavy to think
It
about
is.
at the end of the day. But that actually, it puts more of an importance of that brotherhood. I'd
Yeah.
like to say sisterhood, but as you said, it's women are very scarce or sparse. They try
Yeah.
to hide away as best they can. But
Yeah.
the brotherhood, at least, it's there, be it due to bad
Yeah.
addictions or be it because of safety or anything like that. But, yeah. So obviously now, as I introduced you earlier, you're the new chairperson of the PHN.
Yes.
So obviously, how are you feeling now? Because obviously you've got this huge history of
Yeah.
being a founder, being how this basically big network came together. So yeah, just how are the feelings right now with being named the new chairperson?
Look, I'm honored to be trusted with the responsibility. I'm hoping that we make even more progress, because we made quite a bit of progress under the previous leaders of the network, Caroline and Jason. And then with myself coming in, I think it's literally carrying on with the mandate that we've originally always held, which is to give meaningful help, to the guys that are living and are connected to the streets, to ensure that they become contributing members of society. And that might look like starting something, that might look like supporting people that have started something. And that's the point of the network, being able to network and find solutions within the body, and make sure that we all participate in a person's not just sobriety, but belonging, and coming into a sense of community. Yeah,
Also, in a sense, restoring their dignity as well.
110%. Yeah,
Yeah.
110%. I think dignity is a big aspect of this journey. And it's partially why, even with the lifeboat, we have a voucher system there. And one of the things you can do with the voucher is choose an item of clothing. Um, More often than not, we've found that the guys get given stuff, like given shoes, given jackets, t-shirts, whatever, but they get given stuff that they don't choose. So you just accept stuff. It could be too big, it could be too small, it could not be your style, or whatever the case is. But the voucher almost gives them a sense of pride in the items that they acquire because they chose them. This voucher allows me to come in and choose the jacket I want, not just the jacket that I am given. And that instills such a sense of dignity in them, where they almost feel like they've gone shopping and they're able to buy something for themselves. I mean, if you look at it for us, for example, if you've worked hard, in a month, and then you get your salary, and then you go and get yourself a waffle and ice cream, or a pair of takis that you've always wanted. There's a sense of achievement, but there's also a sense of ownership to that item, because you didn't just get it handed to you, but also it's what you wanted. And that's when you want to cultivate someone to become a contributing member of society, you bring in how society functions into their lives so they can assimilate easier back into society. I hope that makes sense.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, obviously, with all these different aims and that, is that
Yeah.
how the network or the Pietermaritzburg Homeless Network began, or how did it exactly start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So PHN started this way. So there's a national homeless network, that exists in our country, and myself and Caroline were invited to come attend one of the conferences, and then we were invited to join as life changer, the the national homeless network. And one of the mandates that we were given at National Homeless Network was to start a local homelessness network. So when we got back to Marisburg, we were like, okay, we probably should do this, but we were heavily focused on the next step, which was getting guys a space where they can be developed, because we hire on development. It's not just a case of is there a roof under your head, but are you as a person being placed in a space where you can self actualize? And when we came back with that mandate, we had the audience of the deputy mayor, and he said he's had the mayor actually. He said he's had a lot of people ask him for a building. So if we were consolidated, then it's easier to give a space to a consolidated effort than to give everybody their own personal space. So we with that we're like, okay, so it's confirmation of what we've just been given as a mandate for from national. So we came in, we invited all stakeholders, whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, whether you're an NPO working with or in the space of homelessness, to come join efforts with us on this thing. And from that, the network was born essentially, which consists of many different NPOs, but also state departments. Some people in state departments are also a part of it, but also individuals that are in that space, that really felt like this is a space they want to work in. And that's what the network sort of comprises of, and that's how it was started. And when it began, that's when we were able to consolidate our efforts, speak to the municipality, and start this 3 year journey of eventually getting a space that we started sowing money into and resources into getting it ready for guys to come in.
Obviously, as you know, I've been following the whole shelter
Yeah.
movement and that, but um, the idea behind that as well, it wasn't just put them in a building. There was more thought put into it, and I
100%.
know that there was these men's safe spaces that, or the men's safe space, and then there was supposed to be the women's, which
Yeah.
I know was yet to be built. But could you maybe explain to our viewers as
Yeah.
to what this idea was? Not just put them in a building, but there was a phase in
There was a
process.
phased approach, yeah. So the whole, like I had said, we were a part of a national homeless network, and we share ideas in terms of what works, what doesn't work, what is working, what isn't working, how to get this, how to get that type of situation. So it's an idea space, and it's a resource space that we essentially share nationally. And one of the spaces, myself and Caroline, we did a bit of a tour, I guess. We went to Bloem, we went to Joburg, we went to Cape Town to sort of see what's working and what's the climate looking like in different spaces. The one thing that we learned is to identify the major cause for homelessness in your space, and then sort of formulate a way catered to your specific form of homelessness in your space. So you'll find that in Cape Town, for example, a lot of guys are homeless, but it's a lot of migration issues that are there. So it's not necessarily drug related issues. There are a lot of guys with drug related issues because of the size of Cape Town. You get pockets of people who this is a drug issue. Here it's a location issue. Here it's a migration issue. Here it's poverty issue. But there's various issues that attribute to the cause for homelessness in that space. You find Joburg is similar because they both are big cities. In a sense, with us, we have a bit of all those things, but the major cause is it's drugs for us. We have a big drug problem, which has given birth to a homelessness issue in our city. So in our solution, we need to factor that in. Now, one of the things that we learned in Cape Town, there were safe spaces for men and safe spaces for women. Now, the safe space works in such a way where we recognize where you are and then we supply help for where you are, but it slowly morphs you up as you sort of graduate in your own healing. So you'll find guys that are heavily drug addicted and still using drugs heavily are not the most conducive people to put into a building with copper pipes and bedding and cutlery, and because they will see those things because of where they are in terms of their journey with addiction. They will see those things as items to be sold. These are the same reasons that made them leave home. You can't just put them in the house and think that putting them in the house is the solution. They wouldn't have left home if the house was the solution, but it's more than that. Yeah, a safe space essentially looks like this. The model in Cape Town was one where there was a sheltered space. It wasn't indoors, it was outdoors, but sheltered with with barriers on either side, but one open space. And then there'd be beds and forms of accommodation. Would be a bed, would be a sleeping bag, would be a blanket, to keep the guys warm. And as they come in, they'd register, there'd be a meal, you'd be allocated a bed, you'd stay there for the night, and then in the morning you can leave. It allows them for a space where they can use, but also a space where they can be safe from not just the elements, but the elements on the street, essentially, which for females is a big thing because when you get into that space, you get into a space where maybe I don't need a man on the streets anymore. You know, now I can sort of sleep in that space where it's safe and still try make means of income during the day in some shape, form, or size. So the safe space worked on the model of you come in, you get given a bed, you sleep there, and you head out in the morning. But they had programs that almost incentivized guys to stay behind and not leave in the morning and start their journey of recovery. So our model was one way it's going to incorporate a bit of the safe space, and then as you work the programs, you get to open up a case file in the space, have social workers walk with you, have medical practitioners walk with you, and when they decide collectively that you're ready, you sort of graduate to inside the building. And when you're inside the building, you're now a person who's not necessarily gonna see a copper pipe and be like, who's gonna see a bed and be like, who's gonna see. So you've dealt with some of um the challenges that you face that cause you to live in addiction. And it's more rehabilitation based in the sense where you're now getting ready to go to rehab, and when you come back from rehab, this becomes a halfway house for you to get a job and get back on your feet. So that's in a very broad way what the model sort of looked like. But it encompassed various lessons that we had learned from Joburg, Cape Town, Pretoria, Bloemfontein, Benoni, Brakpan. I mean, you name it. Wherever there was homelessness in the city, there was lessons to be learned, and it's the first model of its kind in the country because it's a mixed topology. But we have confidence that when applied properly, it would work. Um, at least for an extended period of time, because it's not a 2 week thing. Um, at the very least, you need about year and a half with the person who's heavily into drugs to get them to a place where they off the drugs and then not returning again. I mean, you see it with U-Turn Ministries in Cape Town, which is another organization that has a similar model, but we had sort of added things to it as well. But it's all from the learnings from all these guys. But that's what the model looked like for the shelter. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I also know you guys took thought in, even as you was talking about copper piping within the bathrooms, and that they were
Yeah.
plastic from
Yeah.
the bucket, or the, I'm gonna say the basins were plastic,
Basins. Yeah.
the taps, the piping,
Yeah.
everything was, so it wasn't something that was worth
Yeah.
being stolen in that, because
Yeah.
from my understanding they would come into that men's safe space but still have the ability to go down and go to the bathroom, for
Yes.
instance, and
Yes.
have a shower if
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Even the showers were made out of plastic.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything that was of value, basically.
Yeah.
It was just, again, supplying that form of dignity of being
Sure.
like, I can wash myself, I can wash my clothing, for instance,
Hundred
as well.
percent.
Yeah.
And it comes with understanding the person that you're working with. You know, you don't want to put things in their space that will lead them to lapsing back into a space that they're trying to escape from. So we invested quite a bit of money into changing the piping. We raised some funds and we changed the piping in that space. We changed the tubs in that space. We changed the showers in that space, making it all plastic, so that if the guys come in to use it, there isn't an immediate temptation to, because you got to understand the state of a person when they come into that space. Some of them have worked hard in the day and they've managed to smoke. Some of them haven't smoked and the cravings are having them. And then for him to walk in a shower and see an entire copper pipe running across, it's extremely tempting. And when they're able to get that copper, and here's my challenge with it: they get the copper, they sell it, but then they're too scared to go back because they felt like they've done something wrong, and now they almost delay their progress because they're like, I can't go back there. I stole, you know, and we want them to come back. It's so we try our best to remove as many hindrances as possible to them not coming back into a space where they can get meaningful help.
So hearing about all of this and that and some of the achievements, including the bathrooms and that, coming out now, obviously you guys have now left the shelter, and some questions have come up as to what now happens with the network. Does it continue? What is its future? And maybe you can answer some of those and quell those worries, anxieties. Just tell us, what are the next steps?
Yeah, look, the network was always a concerted efforts to help with homelessness. You know, the point of the network was never to get a building; it was to challenge homelessness. And if it means we get a building, cool. If it means we don't get a building, that's fine. So the network is still together. Essentially, it hasn't disbanded. It's not the end of the Beatles or anything like that. We're still a network and we're still working together because it consists of organizations and individuals who were already doing something in the space. You know, so it's not a case of people who are trying to figure out what they want to do. This is a bunch of people who are already doing something in the space and will continue to do so. But what this has meant is that they've come together to find out what challenges each one has and where assistance can be given to bolster each member of the network. So we're going to look at almost heading in that direction and says, okay, this is what you got. How can we support you with what you're doing? This is what you have. You're already a part of the network. How can we support you in what you're doing? So sort of use the network to assist the network in the various spaces that it's sort of working in, but also we're toying with certain ideas like looking at a housing first model, which has worked brilliantly in Cape Town, and we're having conversations with the lady there that sort of started that, and they've got a couple of houses going now, and guys have seen great results in that. Most guys who have gone through that methodology haven't lapsed back into the streets, and that's what we want. We want to create contributing members of society like everybody else. So we're looking at the housing first model, and we're looking at how we can sort of possibly get a space in the city and start executing that using the context within the network. So someone leads it, someone does that, someone does this, but we all contribute towards the same cause. But the network is definitely still intact. I think it's more impactful in the way that we're working things now. We had vested a lot of energy into the building and a lot of resources into the building, yet we weren't necessarily able to be completely in control of factors that led to the shelter being able to operate. We had to rely on stakeholders outside of ourselves in order for us to legally do stuff, because we won't contravene any law by any stretch of the imagination. We've seen how mistakes have happened in the country and how the homeless have suffered because of mistakes done by organizations, and we don't want to be a part of that. So we stick to the book, but we do our best to help the guys in a safe and progressive way going forward, not just to be in a position to say that we're doing something, but to be in a position that we're doing something and it's sustainable and it's long term and it's legal, and all these factors that we need to tick, we tick, and then we move forward. It might be a slower pace than just breaking certain things, but we believe it's the right pace, and that's what we're sticking to. Yeah.
Rather do something properly than rushed and broken.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Oh. Awesome, Thami. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys
here
for
today.
having me. This has been cool.
Yeah.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it.
I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some honestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead I say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go, make yourself unstoppable. Dreams are irresponsible, but they're always possible. If you just believe, you could be so remarkable.
Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No, I'm not giving up, no, I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top, taking off in the wind. I gotta make it, I'm saving every day to taste it. I'm patient, but my mind, it can hardly take it. I'm chasing a dream that I've had for several ages. A vacant, modern kingdom for the taking.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna